There is an invisible weight pressing down on you right now. Not on your shoulders, not on your chest. Somewhere deeper, somewhere behind your eyes. You carry it from the moment you wake to the moment you collapse into a restless sleep. And you have carried it for so long that you have forgotten what it feels like to be free of it. So, let me ask you something. When was the last time you experienced true, absolute silence? Not the absence of sound, the absence of thought. No rehearsal of tomorrow's conversation, no replay of yesterday's mistake. Just nothing. You probably can't remember. Your brain right now is a browser with 50 tabs open, music playing from one you can't find, a deadline screaming in another, a grocery list, a half-formed argument you'll never have, an embarrassing memory from 5 years ago, looping on repeat in some forgotten corner. And every single one of those tabs is draining power. Every unresolved thought, every micro-worry, every phantom conversation, they are bleeding your energy, your focus, your life force, 1 second at a time. You don't notice the leak, but you feel the emptiness it leaves behind. And here is the cruelest part. You believe this is useful. You believe that a busy mind is a productive mind. That thinking more means solving more. That the constant churn of analysis and prediction is somehow keeping you safe. It isn't. A noisy mind is not a sharp mind. It is a blurry lens. You are trying to read the world through a window covered in mud, and then wondering why nothing makes sense. But you have felt the alternative. Maybe once, maybe for just a few seconds. That rare, startling moment where the internal monologue simply dies. Where time bends. Where you are not thinking about what you are doing, you are just doing it. The void. That silent, electric clarity where there is no narrator, no judge, no audience, just pure, unfiltered presence. Most people call it flow, some call it peace, and almost everyone believes it is reserved for monks on mountaintops or masters of meditation. It isn't. That silence is not a skill you earn. It is your original state. It is the factory setting you were born with before the world taught you to narrate every breath, to fear every pause, to fill every silence with noise. You didn't lose it. You buried it. Your mind was meant to be a temple, not a marketplace. It is time to evict the ghosts of yesterday and the shadows of tomorrow. Tonight, let's find the off switch for the noise. Close your eyes for a moment. Not literally, not yet, but imagine it. Imagine shutting out the world, sitting in total darkness, in total silence, with nothing to distract you. Just you and the inside of your own skull. Now tell me honestly, what happens? Peace? Stillness? No, what happens is an invasion. The moment you remove every external stimulus, something wakes up. Something that was already there, already running, already whispering beneath the surface of every conversation you've had today, every decision you've made, every breath you didn't notice yourself taking. You will hear it a voice, your voice, except it isn't really yours. It sounds like you. It uses your vocabulary, your memories, your insecurities, but you didn't invite it. You didn't ask it to speak. And if you pay very close attention, you will notice something disturbing. You cannot make it stop. This is not a metaphor. This is not poetry. This is the architectural reality of your brain. And tonight, we are going to open the hood of the most complex machine in the known universe and look directly at the ghost that lives inside it, not to destroy it. Not yet. First, we need to understand what it is, because you cannot fight an enemy you refuse to see. Let's begin with a question that most people have never thought to ask. Who is doing the thinking? It seems obvious. You are. You are the one generating your thoughts, choosing your words, deciding what to focus on. But that confidence, that comfortable assumption, is one of the greatest illusions your nervous system has ever produced. The truth is far stranger and far more unsettling. The vast majority of your mental activity is not something you initiate. It is something that happens to you. There is a system inside your skull that operates entirely without your permission, without your awareness, and often directly against your interests. Neuroscience has a clinical name for it. They call it the default mode network. But that sterile label hides what it really is. Think of it as a background predator, a cognitive parasite, a process that boots up the instant you stop paying attention to the outside world and begins feeding not on food, not on oxygen in the way your muscles do, but on your energy, your peace, and your time. This network, this sprawling web of neural regions connecting your medial prefrontal cortex, your posterior cingulate, your angular gyrus, consumes roughly 20% of your body's total energy. 20%. Your brain itself accounts for only about 2% of your body weight, yet it devours 20% of everything you consume. And the default mode network is the single most expensive program running on that already expensive machine. Let that sink in for a moment. 1/5 of the fuel you burn each day goes not toward moving your body, not toward healing your cells, not toward keeping your heart beating, but toward keeping this ghost alive. And what does it do with all that power? It worries, it ruminates, it replays arguments you had 3 years ago and rehearses confrontations that will never happen. It projects catastrophic futures onto the blank screen of tomorrow. It drags you backward and forward through time, never allowing you to exist in the only moment that is actually real, this one. You are not running this program. This program is running you, and it has been doing so for your entire life. Now here is a number that should haunt you. 60,000. That is the commonly cited estimate for the number of discrete thoughts a human being generates in a single day. 60,000 flickers of consciousness. 60,000 tiny electrical storms cascading through your neural architecture from the moment your eyes open in the morning to the moment they close at night. 60,000 seems enormous. It seems like a staggering display of cognitive power, of creativity, of potential. But there is a shadow hiding inside that number. Researchers who have studied the pattern of human cognition have found something deeply disturbing. Of those 60,000 daily thoughts, roughly 90% are not new. They are repeats. They are echoes. They are the exact same loops of worry, self-criticism, fantasy, and fear that you ran yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. Your brain is not generating 60,000 original thoughts. It is replaying roughly 6,000 thoughts 10 times each. You are not thinking. You are buffering. This is what neuroscientists refer to as neural looping, and it is the cognitive equivalent of a skipping record, a glitched video file, a machine caught in an infinite recursive cycle. Your brain encounters a thought, let's say, a worry about money, and instead of processing it fully, resolving it, and discarding it, The thought gets flagged by your threat detection systems as unresolved, and because it is unresolved, it gets pushed back into the queue, so it surfaces again. And because it surfaces without new information, it remains unresolved. So it gets pushed back again, and again, and again. Not because the thought is useful, not because repeating it will solve anything, but because your ancient limbic architecture was designed for a world where unresolved threats were physical, immediate, and lethal. A rustle in the tall grass, a shadow near the watering hole. In that world, looping on a threat made sense. It kept you vigilant, it kept you alive. But you are no longer standing in the savannah. You are lying in bed at 2 a.m, and the rustle in the grass has been replaced by an email you forgot to send, and your brain cannot tell the difference. This is the glitch. This is the static. Your primitive survival mechanism, beautiful in its original context, devastating in its modern one, has turned your inner world into a radio stuck between stations. A constant, low-frequency hum of recycled anxiety that accomplishes nothing except burning energy and eroding peace. And the most terrifying part is this: your brain prefers it. Your brain would rather loop on a familiar fear than sit in unfamiliar silence. It would rather replay a known wound than face the unknown emptiness of a quiet mind. Because to your nervous system, the known, even when the known is painful, is survivable. The unknown is not. The noise is not a malfunction. It is a strategy, a desperate, outdated, self-destructive strategy your brain uses to avoid the one thing it fears more than suffering uncertainty. Now let us look at what this noise is doing to the one part of your brain that could actually save you. Your prefrontal cortex, that thin, magnificent strip of neural tissue sitting right behind your forehead, is the seat of everything you consider uniquely human. Rational thought, long-term planning, impulse control, the ability to step back from a situation and see it clearly, the ability to choose rather than simply react. This is your inner king, your strategist, your wisest self. And right now, that king is being held hostage. The captors are your amygdala and the deeper structures of your limbic system, an ancient coalition of brain regions that process fear, emotion, and survival instinct. These are not subtle operators. They do not knock on the door of your prefrontal cortex and politely request a hearing. They kick the door down. When your amygdala perceives a threat, and it perceives threats everywhere, constantly, because that is its only job, it triggers a cascade of neurochemical events that effectively shuts down your prefrontal cortex's higher functions. Cortisol floods your system, norepinephrine spikes, your field of attention narrows, your capacity for nuance collapses. The screaming mob of your emotional brain drowns out the calm, quiet voice of reason, and you are left operating on instinct, on impulse, on fear. This is not a metaphor for what stress does to you. This is the literal chemical mechanism. Your rational mind is not weak. It is being chemically suppressed. Every moment of mental noise, every unresolved loop, every micro-anxiety, each one is another voice in the mob, another chemical signal telling your prefrontal cortex to sit down and shut up. The noise in your head is not just thought. It is a war, a neurochemical siege, and the walls of your rational mind are crumbling under the bombardment. And modern life, this extraordinary, brilliant, devastating age we live in, has turned that siege into an occupation. Consider what your brain endures on an average day. You wake up and immediately reach for a device that delivers the entire world's crises to your retina before your feet touch the floor. You scan notifications, each one a tiny demand, a micro interruption, a small fracture in your attention. You switch between tasks, between apps, between conversations, between identities, professional self, social self, parenting self, online self, at a pace that no human brain in the history of our species was ever designed to handle. Researchers have a term for this. They call it context switching, and every time you do it, your brain pays a cognitive tax, a tiny but measurable depletion of executive function, a brief but real moment of disorientation as your neural networks reconfigure for the new task. One switch costs almost nothing, but you perform hundreds of them each day, thousands, and the cumulative cost is staggering. But it goes even deeper than productivity loss. Every notification, every ping, every vibration in your pocket is not merely a distraction. It is a micro-trauma. That word is not hyperbole. When your phone buzzes, your amygdala fires a tiny, almost imperceptible spike of alert, of cortisol, of readiness. One spike means nothing, but stacked end to end, hundreds of times a day, day after day, year after year. These micro-traumas produce a state of chronic fragmentation. You are not merely distracted, you are shattered. Your attention, which was once a single clear mirror capable of reflecting reality with precision, has been broken into 1,000 jagged edges. You can still see the world in each fragment, but the image is fractured, distorted, incomplete. You are looking at your own life through a broken mirror and wondering why nothing feels whole. This is not a failure of willpower. This is not laziness. This is what happens when a brain built for a single campfire is forced to stare into a million flickering screens. And so you live in a state of functional fragmentation, not clinical, not diagnosable, but real. You are never fully in one place, one thought, one moment. Part of you is in the meeting, but part of you is in the argument you had this morning. Part of you is reading these words, but part of you is calculating what you need to do tomorrow. You are split, divided, running parallel processes that were never meant to run simultaneously. And because you have lived this way for so long, because everyone around you lives this way, you assume it is normal. You assume it is just what being human feels like. It is not. It is what being under siege feels like. And your brain has simply stopped sending the alarm because the alarm has been ringing for so long that you have mistaken it for silence. But here is where the story takes its strangest turn. There is a space inside you that the noise cannot reach. You have visited it before, though perhaps only for the span of a heartbeat. It exists in the gap between two thoughts, not in the thoughts themselves, in the space between them. That tiny, almost imperceptible millisecond after one thought dissolves and before the next one forms. In that gap, there is no noise, there is no narrator. There is no default mode network spinning its endless web of past and future. There is only awareness itself, raw, clean, uncontaminated. You have felt it. Maybe while watching a sunset that was so beautiful, it short-circuited your analytical mind. Maybe in the middle of a physical challenge so demanding that your inner monologue simply couldn't keep up. Maybe in the first second after waking, before your brain remembered who you were and what you were supposed to be worried about. For one fraction of a second, the machinery stopped. And in that fraction, you felt something that terrified you. Freedom. Actual freedom. Not freedom from external constraints. Freedom from yourself, from the narrator, from the ghost. And then it vanished, because your brain grabbed you back, pulled you back into the stream of noise, and you let it happen because the silence, that gap, felt wrong. It felt dangerous. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff and looking down into a darkness that had no bottom. Why? Why does the human brain flee from its own silence, as though silence were a predator? Why is the absence of thought more terrifying than the most painful thought you could have? This is the question that will define the rest of this series, because hidden inside that gap, buried beneath the fear your nervous system wraps around it, is something your noisy mind does not want you to find. A truth so fundamental, so disruptive to the machinery of mental noise, that the entire architecture of your default mode network exists, in part, to keep you from discovering it. We are not going to name it tonight. Not yet, but we are going to circle closer, chapter by chapter, layer by layer, until the noise has nowhere left to hide. For now, sit with this single understanding. The noise in your head is not random. It is not a byproduct of intelligence. It is not the sound of a brilliant mind hard at work. It is a program, a very old, very persistent, very energy-expensive program that was written for a world that no longer exists, running on hardware that was never designed for the world that does. And that program has one function: not to solve your problems, not to protect you, not to make you smarter or safer or more prepared. Its function is to keep you occupied, to keep the screen of your awareness so full of flickering images that you never think to look at the screen itself. The noise isn't there to help you solve problems. It's there to keep you from realizing who you are without it. And in the next chapter, we are going to find the specific files your brain refuses to close, the ones that are draining your soul while you sleep. You know the feeling. You've been waiting for it all day, that moment when the world finally stops demanding things from you. The meetings are over, the messages have slowed, the house is quiet. You step out onto the balcony, or you sink into the couch, or you pull the covers up to your chin. This is it. This is your moment of peace. And then, like clockwork, something shifts. A weight settles over your chest. Not a thought, not yet something before thought. A feeling, a nameless, shapeless unease that seeps into your body like cold water filling a basement. You can't point to it. You can't name it. If someone asked you what's wrong, you'd say nothing. Everything's fine. But everything is not fine. Something is pulling at you from the inside, tugging at the edges of your awareness like a child yanking on your sleeve. And when you finally stop long enough to listen, when you finally turn inward and ask, "What is this?" that's when the parade begins. The email you forgot to send. The conversation you walked away from too soon. The project you started 3 months ago and quietly abandoned. The phone call you've been meaning to make for weeks. They arrive not as a list, but as a pressure, a swarm, a low, relentless hum that turns your moment of rest into a courtroom where you are both the accused and the judge. You are not relaxing. You are being hunted. What is hunting you has a name. In 1927, a Lithuanian psychologist named Bluma Zygarnik sat in a busy restaurant in Vienna and noticed something peculiar about the waiters. They could remember, in perfect detail, every order that had not yet been paid for. Tables of 8, 12, 15. Every dish, every drink, every substitution held flawlessly in their minds. But the moment the bill was settled, the moment the transaction was complete, the memory vanished. Ask a waiter about a table that had already paid, and they could barely recall whether anyone had been sitting there at all. Zygarnik took this observation back to the laboratory and confirmed it through rigorous experiment. The human mind holds incomplete tasks in active memory with startling tenacity. But once a task is perceived as finished, the mind releases it almost instantly. This became known as the Zygarnik effect, and for nearly a century it has been treated as a curiosity, an interesting quirk of cognition, a footnote in psychology textbooks. It is not a curiosity, it is a predator, and it is the single most underestimated force operating inside your skull right now. Your brain was not designed to tolerate incompletion. This is not a preference. This is not a personality trait. This is a fundamental architectural principle of your neural operating system, forged across millions of years of evolutionary pressure. When your ancestors encountered an unresolved situation, a predator that appeared and then vanished into the brush, a food source discovered but not yet secured, a rival whose intentions were unclear, their survival depended on keeping that situation active in consciousness. The brain could not afford to let it fade. It could not afford to relax. Because in the environment that shaped your neural architecture, an unresolved situation was, more often than not, an active threat. And so your brain evolved a mechanism elegant in its simplicity, devastating in its modern consequences. Anything that begins but does not end gets flagged. Anything that is opened but not closed gets pinned to the surface of your awareness like a photograph on a detective's wall, and it stays there, not in the background, not filed away for later retrieval. It stays in your working memory, your mental RAM, active, alive, consuming processing power, burning energy, demanding attention. Not because it matters, not because it is urgent, but because it is unfinished. Let me say that again, because this is the part most people miss. The Zygarnik mechanism does not evaluate importance. It does not distinguish between a life-threatening crisis and a trivial errand. It does not care whether the unfinished task is call an ambulance or return that library book. It only recognizes one binary condition, open or closed, complete or incomplete, resolved or unresolved. And if the file is open, it stays in RAM, period. No negotiation, no override. This is why you can lie awake at 3 a.m, safe in your bed, physically exhausted, emotionally drained, and find yourself unable to sleep because some distant corner of your mind is screaming about a text message you read 6 hours ago and didn't respond to. The message was trivial. The person who sent it has probably forgotten about it, but your brain has not forgotten. Your brain cannot forget, because to your ancient cognitive architecture, that unanswered message is an open loop, an unresolved variable, a door left ajar in a dark hallway, and your nervous system will not let you rest until every door is either walked through or sealed shut. Now multiply that by 100, by 1,000. Think about how many open loops you are carrying right now, in this very moment. The half-read book on your nightstand, the diet you started and silently abandoned, the friend you've been meaning to call for months, the creative project you were passionate about for 2 weeks before life intervened, the apology you owe someone but can't bring yourself to deliver, the medical appointment you keep rescheduling, the conversation with your partner that you both keep circling around but never land on. Each one of these is an active file in your working memory. Each one is consuming a thread of your cognitive processing power. Not a large thread, not enough to notice on its own, but threads add up. 10 open loops and you feel slightly scattered. 50 and you feel overwhelmed. 100 and you feel something far worse. You feel a nameless, pervasive exhaustion that no amount of sleep can touch, because the exhaustion isn't physical, it is computational. Your brain is running out of RAM, and unlike a computer, you cannot open a task manager and force quit the processes you don't need. They are running beneath the surface of your conscious awareness, invisible but relentless, draining you of the very energy you need to actually close them. This is the cognitive loop of doom. An open task creates anxiety. Anxiety consumes energy. Depleted energy reduces your capacity to complete tasks. Reduced capacity creates more open tasks. More open tasks create more anxiety. The loop feeds itself. It is an engine that runs on its own exhaust, and the longer it runs, the faster it accelerates. You have felt this. You have lived inside this loop for days, weeks, maybe years without understanding its mechanics. You thought you were lazy. You thought you were undisciplined. You thought there was something fundamentally broken about your ability to follow through, to finish what you start, to keep your promises to yourself. There isn't. You are not broken. You are overloaded. You are a machine designed to hold 7 active tasks being asked to hold 700, and the result is not dysfunction. It is exactly what any engineer would predict. System degradation, processing failure, collapse. And now let us talk about the hour when this predator is at its most powerful. The hour you dread without knowing why. Night. Why does the noise get louder when the world gets quiet? You've noticed this. Everyone has. During the day, you manage, you cope, you push through. The external world provides just enough stimulation, just enough distraction, just enough demand on your attention that the background hum of your open loops stays mostly beneath the threshold of awareness. You can't hear the static when the music is loud, but when the music stops, when the office empties, when the screen goes dark, when the house falls silent, and you are left alone with nothing but the sound of your own breathing, the static becomes deafening. This is not a coincidence. This is not bad luck. This is the zygonic predator waiting for its moment. During the day, your prefrontal cortex, your conscious executive mind, is engaged with the external world. It is processing sensory data, managing social interactions, executing tasks. This engagement acts as a kind of barrier, a wall between your conscious awareness and the churning sea of unresolved loops beneath it. But the moment external input decreases, the moment you lie down, close your eyes, and remove every competing signal, that wall dissolves. And everything you have been suppressing, everything you have been outrunning, everything you have been drowning out with activity and noise and distraction surges upward. The unpaid bill, the relationship you know is failing, the dream you've been too afraid to pursue, the version of yourself you promised you would become and haven't. They don't arrive gently, they arrive as a flood. And they carry with them not just information, but emotion, guilt, shame, regret, fear, because each unfinished task is entangled with the feeling you were having when you first failed to complete it. The task and the emotion are stored together, locked in the same neural circuit, inseparable. When one surfaces, the other rides with it. This is why you don't just think about the unfinished task at night. You feel it. You feel the full emotional weight of every abandoned commitment, every broken promise, every half-started life. And your brain presents them to you not as a calm inventory, but as a prosecution. Here is what you said you would do. Here is what you actually did. Explain yourself. This is not your conscience speaking. Your conscience is a higher cognitive function, a product of your prefrontal cortex, of reason and reflection. What speaks to you at 3 a.m. is older than reason. It is a primitive survival mechanism that does not understand modern life, does not understand that some tasks can wait, does not understand that not everything incomplete is dangerous. It only understands that the loop is open and the loop must be closed, and if you will not close it during the day, it will force you to confront it in the dark. And if this were the end of the story, if the Zeigarnik effect was simply an internal phenomenon, a private battle between your conscious mind and your evolutionary inheritance, it would be manageable. Difficult, but manageable. But it is not the end of the story, because the modern world has discovered this glitch, and it is exploiting it with surgical precision. Look at your phone. Look at the red dots. Every application on your device is engineered around one principle: to create an open loop that your brain cannot ignore. The unread message count, the notification badge, the "someone liked your photo" alert. Each one is a manufactured Zeigarnik gap, a forced incompletion injected directly into your cognitive architecture. You didn't ask for these loops. You didn't choose them. They were placed inside your mind by designers who understand, with terrifying clarity, that an open loop is a leash, that your brain will return to close it, that you will pick up the phone not because you want to, but because the open loop is creating a micro-anxiety that your nervous system cannot tolerate. And the cruelest part of this design is that closing one loop always opens another. You check the notification. The loop closes. But now you see a message. A new loop opens. You read the message. You see a seen receipt on a conversation you haven't replied to. Another loop. You reply. You see a news headline. Another loop. Each closed door reveals 2 more open ones. And before you know it, 20 minutes have passed and you have not rested. You have simply traded one set of open loops for another. This is not an accident. This is architecture. The attention economy does not sell your focus to advertisers. It sells your incompletion. It sells the fact that your ancient brain cannot walk away from an open loop, and it creates open loops at industrial scale. You are living in a state of constant cognitive incompletion, 1,000 tiny cuts of unfinishedness, each one too small to notice, too small to name, but collectively powerful enough to keep you in a permanent state of low-grade cognitive emergency. You are being bled dry, not by any single wound, by 1,000 invisible ones. And because each cut is so small, so trivial, so seemingly insignificant, you never think to bandage them. You never think to stop the bleeding. You just feel tired, endlessly, inexplicably tired. So, what is the solution? You've heard the standard advice. Make a to-do list. Write it all down. Get it out of your head and onto paper. And there is a grain of truth in this. The act of externalizing an open loop can, in some cases, reduce its cognitive burden. But here is what the productivity gurus don't tell you. For many people, to-do lists make the noise worse. Not better, worse. Because a to-do list does not close the loop. It formalizes it. It takes a vague, floating anxiety and converts it into a concrete, visible inventory of your own incompletion. Now, instead of a nameless unease, you have a numbered list of failures staring back at you. Item 1, not done. Item 2, not done. Item 3, carried over from last week. Item 4, carried over from last month. The list becomes a monument to your inadequacy, a daily reminder of the gap between who you are and who you think you should be. And every time you look at it, every unchecked box sends a fresh Zeigarnik signal to your brain. Open, 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 open. The list was supposed to free you. Instead, it has given the predator a megaphone. There is another way. A specific, counterintuitive method of closing these mental files that your brain actually accepts as resolution. It does not involve completing every task. It does not involve writing things down. It does not involve willpower, discipline, or any of the brute force strategies that the self-help industry sells by the ton. It works because it targets the mechanism itself, the specific neural process that keeps the loop open. It works in the dark, where the predator lives. And we will get to it, but not yet. Because before you can close the loops, you need to understand something far more dangerous than the loops themselves, the force that opened most of them in the first place. Consider this. Most of your open loops did not come from tasks assigned to you. They did not come from obligations, from work, from other people's demands. Most of them came from choices you made. The decision to start a new project. The decision to commit to a goal. The decision to say yes when you meant no. The decision to pursue one path and abandon another. Every choice you have ever made opened a loop, and every choice you didn't make, every option you left on the table, every road not taken, opened one too. You are haunted not only by what you started and didn't finish, but by what you considered and never started. The vacation you researched but never booked. The career you fantasized about but never pursued. The conversation you rehearsed 100 times but never had. Each one is a ghost in your machine. Each one is a file that was opened the moment you imagined the possibility, and that was never closed because the possibility was never either realized or consciously released. You are not just carrying unfinished tasks, you are carrying unfinished lives. Parallel versions of yourself that you created in your imagination and then abandoned without ceremony, without closure, without even the dignity of a deliberate goodbye. And each one of those phantom selves is running in the background of your mind, consuming a thread of processing power, whispering, what if, what if, what if? This is the weight. This is the invisible thing you could not name when you stepped out onto the balcony tonight. It is not stress. It is not depression. It is not burnout. Not exactly. It is cognitive residue, the accumulated, compounded, never addressed remainder of every incomplete experience, every unresolved decision, every half-lived possibility you have ever touched and then walked away from. It coats the inside of your mind like sediment in an old pipe, narrowing the channel through which your clarity, your creativity, and your peace must flow. And it has been building for years, for decades, since childhood. Every unresolved argument with a parent, every abandoned friendship, every silent heartbreak you swallowed instead of speaking, layer upon layer of the unfinished, pressing down on you with a weight that has no physical form and therefore no obvious remedy. You think you are tired because you work too much. You are wrong. You are tired because you are carrying 1,000 open doors in your head. And in the next chapter, we are going to look at the silent killer of the modern mind, the hidden cost of every choice you ever made. Welcome to the world of decision fatigue. Imagine this. You walk into a supermarket, not for a feast, not for a celebration, just for breakfast. Just cereal. One box. That's all you need. And then you turn the corner and the aisle opens up before you like a cathedral of choice. 50 options, maybe 60. Bright boxes screaming at you from every shelf. Organic, whole grain, high protein, low sugar, gluten-free, kid-friendly, heart-healthy, crunchy, smooth, clustered, flaked, with real fruit, with artificial fruit, with no fruit at all. You stand there, and something happens that you probably don't notice. Your chest tightens, just slightly. Your eyes move faster. Your breathing becomes shallower. A faint, almost imperceptible fog rolls into your mind. You're not excited by this abundance. You are under attack. Your prefrontal cortex, that elegant, overworked command center behind your forehead, has just been handed a problem it was never designed to solve. Not because it can't compare options. It can, beautifully. But because it was built to compare 3, maybe 4 options in a life or death context. This berry or that berry. This path or that path. This shelter or that shelter. Not 60 variations of the same processed grain packaged in slightly different colors. Every single box on that shelf is a micro demand on your executive function. Every one requires your brain to evaluate, compare, predict satisfaction, weigh trade-offs, and discard alternatives. And your brain does this faithfully, obediently, for every single option, because it doesn't know that cereal doesn't matter. It processes every choice with the same neurological machinery it uses to navigate survival. And by the time you drop a box into your cart, defeated more than decided, something inside you is already a little dimmer than it was when you walked in. Now imagine the same scenario, but it's not cereal. It's a Tuesday night on your couch. You open a streaming service. 10,000 titles. Every genre, every mood, every length. Curated rows, recommended rows, trending rows. Continue watching. New releases, hidden gems. You scroll, and you scroll, and you scroll. 20 minutes pass. 30. You haven't watched anything. You've just been choosing. Or rather, you've been trying to choose. And eventually, one of two things happens. Either you pick something at random that you don't really want, or you close the app entirely and stare at the ceiling, feeling somehow more exhausted than before. You came looking for rest. You found labor. Invisible, unrecognized, unpaid labor. The labor of choosing. And nobody warned you that choosing is work. Real, metabolic, measurable work. Nobody told you that every decision you make, no matter how trivial, no matter how unconscious, is drawing from a reservoir that is not infinite. That your ability to choose wisely, to think clearly, to resist impulse, and act with intention is not a character trait. It is a resource. And like every resource, it can be depleted. It can be drained. It can run out. Welcome to the science of decision fatigue. And welcome to the understanding that will change how you see every hour of your waking life. In the late 1990s, a social psychologist named Roy Baumeister conducted an experiment that would quietly reshape our understanding of the human will. He brought subjects into a room filled with the smell of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. On a table sat two plates, one piled with the warm cookies, the other with raw radishes. Some subjects were told they could eat the cookies. Others were told they could only eat the radishes, and they had to resist the cookies. Afterward, both groups were given an unsolvable geometric puzzle and told to work on it as long as they could. The cookie group persisted for an average of 19 minutes. The radish group, the ones who had spent their willpower resisting chocolate, gave up after 8. Same puzzle, same instructions, same people, in every meaningful sense. The only difference was that one group had already spent something finite, something that didn't regenerate just because the task had changed. Baumeister called it ego depletion, but let us call it what it really is. Decision capital, and you wake up every morning with a fixed amount of it. Think of it as a battery, not a large battery, not an industrial battery that powers a city, a small one, personal, fragile, fully charged when you open your eyes, and immediately, from the first second of consciousness, beginning to drain. What do I wear? Snooze or get up? Shower first or coffee first? Check my phone or don't check my phone? And you haven't even left the bedroom yet. Each of these micro choices, so small, so automatic, so seemingly insignificant, draws from the same reservoir that you will later need to make the choices that actually matter. The decision to be patient with your child. The decision to focus on deep work instead of shallow, busy work. The decision to say no to something that isn't aligned with your goals. The decision to have a difficult conversation instead of avoiding it for another day. These are the choices that shape your life. These are the ones that require the most willpower, the most clarity, the most cognitive precision. And by the time you reach them, usually in the afternoon, usually after hundreds of micro decisions have already bled your reserves, you are operating on fumes. The battery is nearly dead. The guard, your prefrontal cortex, your rational, deliberate self, is exhausted. And when the guard falls asleep, the noise rushes in. This is why you make your worst decisions after 2 in the afternoon. This is why the diet fails at dinner, not at breakfast. This is why you say things at night that you would never say in the morning. This is why the impulse purchase happens at the end of the shopping trip, not the beginning. This is why you open social media at 9 p.m. and close it at midnight, wondering where the time went and why you feel hollow. Your decision capital was spent, all of it, on 1,000 choices that didn't matter, leaving nothing for the ones that did. And in the absence of willpower, in the vacuum left by a depleted prefrontal cortex, your older brain takes over. The limbic system, the amygdala, the reward-seeking, pain-avoiding, path of least resistance machinery that doesn't think about tomorrow because it wasn't designed to. It was designed to survive the next 5 minutes. And surviving the next 5 minutes for that ancient system means choosing whatever is easiest, whatever is most immediately pleasurable, whatever requires the least cognitive effort. Scroll, eat, buy, agree, avoid, numb. You don't lack discipline. You lack fuel, and you are burning it on things that were never worth the cost. Now consider the world you actually live in, not the world of your ancestors, who might have faced a handful of meaningful decisions in a day: where to hunt, when to move camp, whether a stranger was friend or enemy. Your world, the digital jungle. You wake up, and before your feet hit the floor, your phone has already presented you with a cascade of decisions. Which notifications to open, which to ignore, which emails are urgent, which messages need a response. You scroll through a feed, and every single piece of content, every image, every headline, every comment triggers a micro decision. Engage or ignore, like or skip, read more or scroll past, save for later or forget forever. Each one is tiny, each one is nearly invisible, and each one costs something. Researchers at Cornell University estimated that the average adult makes approximately 35,000 decisions per day. 35,000. Your ancestors, even the most active, most complex, most socially embedded among them, likely faced a few hundred at most. You are making in a single morning what they made in a season. And you are making these decisions not in a calm, controlled environment where you can weigh each one carefully, but in a relentless, overlapping, simultaneous storm of inputs. You are deciding while distracted, deciding while tired, deciding while already deciding something else. Your brain is running 1,000 parallel choice processes on hardware that was optimized for sequential, deliberate, one-at-a-time evaluation. And the result is not efficiency. The result is erosion. A steady, silent, grinding erosion of the very faculty that makes you human, your ability to choose wisely. This is why you feel fried, not tired fried. There is a difference, and you have felt it. Tired is physical. Tired is your muscles aching after exertion, your body asking for rest, a heaviness that sleep can cure. Fried is different. Fried is cognitive. Fried is the feeling of your mind being wrung out like a wet cloth, of every thought requiring effort, of the simplest question, what do you want for dinner, feeling like an act of violence. You haven't moved from your chair all day. You haven't lifted anything, run anywhere, exerted yourself physically in any way, but you are destroyed because the work was invisible. The work was choosing. And nobody counts choosing as labor. Nobody clocks out from deciding. There is no union for the cognitively depleted, no overtime pay for the hours you spent navigating the endless, fractal maze of modern options. You are doing the hardest work a human brain can do, continuous executive function under relentless demand, and you are doing it without acknowledgement, without rest, and without any understanding of why it is costing you everything. And here is where it gets truly dangerous. When decision capital runs dry, your brain doesn't simply stop choosing. It doesn't shut down and wait for the battery to recharge. Instead, it defaults to one of two failure modes, and both of them will wreck your life in different ways. The first is paralysis. You've experienced this. The moment when you stare at your screen, at your options, at the fork in the road, and you simply cannot move. Not because you don't know what to do, not because the options are equal, but because the cognitive machinery required to evaluate and commit has been drained to zero, and what's left is a kind of mental static, a buzzing, churning, formless noise that fills the space where clarity used to live. You sit there, minutes pass, nothing happens. You tell yourself you need more information, more time, more perspective, but you don't. You need more fuel. You are a car with an empty tank sitting at a green light, and no amount of honking from behind is going to make you move. Paralysis feels like laziness. It feels like weakness. It feels like a character flaw. It is none of these things. It is a predictable, measurable consequence of cognitive depletion, as inevitable as a flashlight dimming when the batteries die. The second failure mode is the opposite impulsivity. When the prefrontal cortex can no longer sustain deliberate evaluation, the brain doesn't always freeze. Sometimes it lurches, it grabs, it decides with reckless, almost desperate speed, not because it has found the right answer, but because the pain of continuing to choose has become unbearable, and any decision, even a terrible one, provides relief. This is the midnight online purchase you can't explain in the morning, the angry text you sent before you could think it through, the junk food you ate not because you were hungry but because you were exhausted and saying no required a resource you no longer had. Impulsivity feels like freedom. It feels like spontaneity, like finally cutting through the noise and acting. But it is not freedom. It is collapse. It is the cognitive equivalent of a building's support beams giving way. What looks like dramatic action is really structural failure. And the consequences are real. Broken relationships, financial damage, health damage, promises made that you cannot keep, words spoken that you cannot take back, all because the guard fell asleep and the gate was left open. Paralysis and impulsivity, the two shadows of decision fatigue, and between them in the no man's land, between the inability to act and the inability to act wisely, lives the noise, the static, the mental clutter that we have been tracking since the first chapter of this series. Because the noise isn't random, it isn't purposeless. The noise is what fills the vacuum when your brain is too tired to maintain coherent, directed thought. It is the sound of 1,000 unprocessed micro-decisions swirling in your cognitive space, each one too small to notice, too incomplete to resolve, too numerous to organize. The noise is the sound of your mind drowning in choices it cannot finish making. And the more depleted you become, the louder it gets. The louder it gets, the harder it is to think. The harder it is to think, the more depleted you become. You have been inside this spiral before. You are probably inside it right now. So what do you do? How do you survive a world that demands 35,000 decisions a day from a brain that was budgeted for a few hundred? The answer is not willpower. Willpower is the resource that's already depleted. Asking for more of it is like telling a dehydrated person to simply be less thirsty. The answer is not motivation, not productivity hacks, not another app designed to organize the chaos. The answer is elimination. Strategic, deliberate, ruthless elimination of every decision that does not deserve your cognitive resources. And the people who have figured this out, the ones the world calls disciplined, focused, relentless, are not stronger than you. They are not more gifted. They have simply learned to protect their battery. You've heard the stories. The tech founder who wears the same outfit every day. The executive who eats the same breakfast every morning. The artist who works in the same chair, at the same desk, at the same hour, without variation. The world looks at these people and sees eccentricity, obsession, rigidity. But what these people have actually done is something far more radical and far more intelligent. They have automated the mundane. They have taken the 100 daily decisions that don't matter what to wear, what to eat, when to start, which route to take, and they have removed them from the equation entirely. Not because those decisions are beneath them, but because every micro choice you eliminate is a micro reserve of cognitive fuel that you now have available for something that matters. The negotiation, the creative breakthrough, the difficult conversation, the moment that actually requires your full, uncompromised human intelligence. They are not saving time, they are saving themselves. This is the secret of the elite, and it has nothing to do with talent, genetics, or luck. It is a design choice, a deliberate restructuring of daily life around a single principle: protect the battery. Build routines so strong, so automatic, so deeply embedded in your daily rhythm that your prefrontal cortex doesn't even need to wake up until it faces something worthy of its power. Make the default path the right path, so that the depleted version of yourself, the version that exists at 9 p.m., at the end of a long day, when the guard is asleep and the noise is deafening, still moves in the right direction. Not because of discipline, because of architecture. Because you built the track before the train started moving, and now the train runs on rails instead of willpower. This is not about wearing the same shirt. That is a tactic, a surface-level expression of a much deeper principle. The principle is this: every recurring decision that you can convert into a default is a permanent withdrawal from the war on your cognitive resources. Every choice you make once and never make again is a door you close forever, a loop that never reopens, a thread of processing power that is freed up for the rest of your life. Meal prep is not about nutrition. It is about removing 5 decisions from tomorrow. A morning routine is not about productivity. It is about giving your brain 30 minutes of autopilot before the siege begins. A capsule wardrobe is not about fashion. It is about refusing to spend decision capital on fabric when you could spend it on your family, your art, your growth, your peace. You have been treating your willpower as a moral question. Am I strong enough? Am I disciplined enough? Am I good enough? It was never a moral question. It was always an engineering question. How do I design my life so that the most important choices get the best version of my brain, and the trivial ones get no brain at all? The people who answer this question well do not look like monks or machines. They look like people who are strangely calm, strangely clear, strangely present. They are not immune to the noise. They have simply stopped feeding it. But here is the thing. Even if you automate every mundane decision, even if you build the perfect routine, even if you protect your battery with the devotion of an engineer guarding a reactor, there is still a deeper problem. Because decision fatigue is only one stream feeding the river of noise. There is another, one that no routine can touch, one that no automation can solve. It lives not in the choices you make each day, but in the accumulated, unprocessed, unexamined cognitive debris of your entire life. Every idea you captured and never developed, every emotion you felt and never expressed, every thought that drifted through your consciousness and was never acknowledged, never sorted, never released. It's all still in there, piling up, compacting, turning from clutter into pressure. You are exhausted, not because of what you do, but because of what you choose to do. But what if the noise isn't just about choices? What if your brain is literally overflowing with trash that you forgot to throw out? In the next chapter, we are going to perform a nerve surgical procedure. We are going to learn the art of the brain dump and find out why your soul is crying for a blank page. There is a feeling you know but have never named. It sits behind your eyes. Not pain, not quite pressure, something denser, something slower. Like your skull has been filled with wet concrete and it is beginning to set. You can't think clearly, but you can't stop thinking either. Ideas start, but don't finish. Sentences form in your mind and dissolve before they reach meaning. You walk into a room and forget why. You open your phone and forget what for. You sit down to work and your brain offers you everything except the thing you need, a flash of an old argument, a lyric from a song you haven't heard in years, a sudden worry about something 3 weeks from now. This is not distraction. This is not a lack of focus. This is overflow. Your mind is not wandering. It is drowning. And the reason it is drowning is architectural. It is a design problem so fundamental, so built into the way you use your brain every single day, that most people never even recognize it. They just live with the fog. They just accept the heaviness. They assume this is what thinking feels like, this sluggish, cluttered, endlessly interrupted experience of consciousness. It isn't. What you are experiencing is the result of using the wrong part of your brain for the wrong job. And tonight, we are going to fix it. Not with meditation, not with a pill, with something far older, far simpler, and far more powerful than either. Let's start with what your brain actually is. Not what it feels like, not what you imagine it to be what it is. Your working memory, the part of your mind that handles conscious, active thought, is a processor, not a hard drive, not a warehouse, a processor. It was designed to take in information, manipulate it, make a decision, and move on. That is its function. That is what it does brilliantly when it is allowed to do it. The neuroscience is precise on this point. Your working memory can hold approximately 4 items at a time. Some researchers stretch it to 7. Some compress it to 3. But the order of magnitude is clear: single digits, not hundreds, not dozens, single digits, 4 thoughts, 4 active threads. That is the full, total capacity of the most sophisticated information processing system in the known universe when it comes to conscious, simultaneous operation. 4. And you are asking it to hold 400. Think about what you are currently storing in your working memory right now. Not on paper, not in an app. In your head, the thing you need to buy at the store, the email you need to send tomorrow, the appointment you're afraid you'll forget, the half-formed idea you had in the shower this morning, the unresolved tension with a friend, the bill that might be overdue, the project you're behind on, The thing your partner said last week that you still haven't processed. The vague sense that you're forgetting something but you can't remember what. Each one of these is an active thread in your working memory, consuming processing power, demanding a sliver of attention, degrading the performance of every other cognitive task you attempt. You are not forgetful. Let me say that again, because you need to hear it as a physiological fact, not as a reassurance. You are not forgetful. You are full. Your processor is not malfunctioning. It is maxed out. You have taken a system designed to hold 4 items, and you have loaded it with 40, with 400, with an ever-growing backlog of unprocessed thoughts, unresolved tasks, unexpressed emotions, and half-captured ideas. And then you wonder why you can't concentrate. You wonder why you feel foggy. You wonder why your brain feels heavy. It feels heavy because it is heavy. It is carrying weight it was never meant to bear. And here is the part that should alarm you. The degradation is not linear. It is exponential. Going from 4 active threads to 8 does not halve your processing power. It destroys it. Because your working memory doesn't just hold items, it manages the relationships between them. 4 items means 6 possible relationships. 8 items means 28. 12 items means 66. The complexity doesn't grow, it explodes. And with every new item you refuse to offload, the entire system slows down, not a little, catastrophically. This is why the fog gets thicker as the day goes on. This is why you can feel sharp and clear at 7 in the morning and completely useless by 4 in the afternoon. It is not just decision fatigue, it is memory saturation. Your processor is running so many background tasks that it has nothing left for the foreground. You are trying to write a symphony on a computer that is using 98% of its resources just to keep 1,000 browser tabs from crashing. The symphony never gets written. The tabs never get closed, and you sit there, staring at a blinking cursor, wondering what happened to the person who used to have ideas. There is a way out, and it does not require more intelligence, more discipline, or more effort. It requires less. Specifically, it requires you to do something that your brain desperately wants you to do, but that modern life has taught you to resist. You need to take what is inside your head and put it outside your head, physically, tangibly, in ink, on paper, with your hand. This is the brain dump. And it is not a productivity technique. It is a biological intervention. Let me explain why. And let me explain why the specific method matters. Why writing by hand is not the same as typing. Why a physical page is not the same as a screen. Why this particular act carries a neurological significance that goes far beyond the words you put down. When you write by hand, something happens in your brain that does not happen when you type. The motor cortex activates differently. The movements are slower, more deliberate, more complex. Each letter requires a unique sequence of fine motor adjustments, pressure, angle, curve, spacing that engages areas of the brain associated with memory, encoding, emotional processing, and cognitive integration. Typing is fast and uniform. Every letter is the same mechanical action, the same downward press of a finger, varying only in location. But handwriting is artisanal. Each word is crafted, each sentence is physically built, and the brain registers this difference profoundly. Neuroimaging studies have shown that handwriting activates the reticular activating system, the RAS, a bundle of neurons at the brainstem that acts as a filter for your conscious attention. When the RAS is engaged, the brain shifts into a state of heightened focus and encoding. It begins to treat the information passing through it not as transient noise, but as signal, as something worth preserving, processing, and resolving. This is why students who take notes by hand retain more than students who type. Not because the notes are better, often they are messier, less complete, less organized, but because the act of writing told the brain, this matters, and the brain listened. But the significance of the hand-brain connection goes deeper than memory. When you physically write down a thought that has been circling inside your skull, a worry, a task, a fear, an idea your nervous system receives, a signal that the thought has been handled, not completed, handled, transferred, moved from the volatile, overloaded 4-slot processor of your working memory to an external, stable, reliable medium. And this matters because, remember, your brain keeps open loops alive in working memory, not because they are important, but because they are unresolved. The Zeigarnik mechanism we examined in the last chapter, that ancient, relentless insistence on keeping incomplete tasks active, responds to the act of physical writing as a form of closure. Not full closure, not the satisfaction of completion, but a partial closure, an acknowledgement, a receipt. Your subconscious receives the physical act of writing as proof that the thought has been captured, that it will not be lost, that the system can release its grip. And so it does. The loop doesn't close entirely, but it loosens. The thread is freed. The processing power is returned. And your conscious mind, for the first time in hours or days or weeks, gets a little room to breathe. This is cognitive offloading. This is the hand reaching into the machine and physically extracting the sludge that has been clogging every gear, every valve, every circuit. And the relief is not abstract. It is not metaphorical. It is chemical, measurable, real. But there is another dimension to this act that we need to examine, and it may be the most important one of all. When a thought lives inside your head, it is formless. It is vapor. It has no edges, no boundaries, no fixed shape. A worry inside your skull is not a sentence, it is a feeling. A dark, swirling, amorphous cloud of dread that seems enormous, that seems to fill your entire inner space, that seems unsurvivable. You cannot see its borders because it has none. You cannot measure its weight because it shifts and expands every time you try to look at it directly. Inside your head, every fear is infinite. Every problem is unsolvable. Every anxiety is a monster without a face. And then you write it down, and something extraordinary happens. The monster becomes a sentence. The infinite becomes finite. The formless becomes fixed. That enormous, all-consuming dread that was eating you alive 5 seconds ago is now sitting on a piece of paper in front of you, and it is what? 7 words, maybe 10. A single line of ink on a white page. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. That's it. That's the whole monster. On the inside, it was a hurricane. On the paper, it is a sentence, and you can see it now. You can read it. You can hold it at arm's length and look at it the way a doctor looks at an X-ray, with clinical distance, with professional detachment, with the understanding that this is a thing to be examined, not a thing to be consumed by. This is the objectification of anxiety. The moment a thought moves from the grey matter of your inner world to the white page of the outer world, it undergoes a fundamental transformation. It loses its power, not because the problem it describes has changed, the job is still uncertain, the relationship is still strained, the deadline is still looming, but because you are no longer inside it. You are looking at it. And there is a universe of difference between being inside a feeling and looking at a feeling. Inside, you are the fear. Outside, you are the observer of the fear. And the observer has options that the prisoner never did. Now let me walk you through how to actually do this. Not as an exercise, not as a journaling practice, as a purge, a three-layered excavation of the mental sludge that is throttling your cognitive system. The first layer is the surface. This is the easiest to reach and the most immediately relieving. Sit down with a blank page paper, not a screen, and begin writing every task, every errand, every obligation, every logistical fragment that is currently floating in your working memory. Don't organize. Don't prioritize. Don't even write incomplete sentences if you don't want to. Just dump. Buy milk. Call dentist. Reply to Sarah. Fix the leaking faucet. Renew passport. Research flights. Return the shoes. Finish the report. Send the invoice. Every single thing that you have been holding in your head, release it. Let it fall onto the page without ceremony, without order, without judgment. This layer is the most cluttered but the least painful. These are the errands of living, the surface trash. And as you write them, you will feel the first wave of relief, the loosening of the first set of loops, the freeing of the first threads of processing power. Your brain will begin to feel lighter. Not clear yet, just lighter. Like the first buckets of water being bailed from a sinking boat. The boat is still taking on water, but at least now you're bailing. The second layer is deeper, and it hurts. This is the emotional residue, the things you are carrying not because they need to be done, but because they need to be felt. The grudge you are holding against someone who hurt you and never apologized. The guilt you feel about something you did or failed to do. The grief you haven't processed because there was never time, never space, never permission. The fear that sits beneath your daily anxiety like bedrock beneath soil, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of being seen, fear of being truly known. Write these down too. Not as problems to solve, not as items on a to-do list, but as truths to acknowledge. I'm angry at my father. I'm terrified I'm wasting my life. I miss the person I used to be. I don't know who I am anymore. These are not thoughts. These are wounds. And they have been taking up space in your working memory for years, not as active tasks, but as unresolved emotional data that your brain refuses to archive because it has never been processed. Putting them on paper does not heal them, but it does something almost as important. It names them. And a named wound is a wound you can begin to treat. An unnamed wound is just pain without a source, anxiety without a target, a heaviness you can never put down because you can never find where you picked it up. The third layer is the deepest, and it is not painful at all. It is surprising, because buried beneath the surface trash and the emotional residue beneath the errands and the fears and the grudges, there is something else. Something you forgot was there. Ideas, visions, fragments of creativity that surfaced at odd moments in the shower, on the drive home, in that half second before sleep, and were immediately buried under the noise before you could capture them. These are the products of your creative subconscious, the part of your mind that never stops generating, never stops connecting, never stops producing original thought. It has been working this whole time, faithfully, tirelessly, brilliantly. But you never heard it because the surface was too loud, the processor was too full, the noise was too thick. And now, with the first two layers cleared, with the errands externalized and the emotions named, you will find, to your astonishment, that this third layer begins to surface on its own. An idea for a project you'd abandoned, a solution to a problem you'd been grinding on for weeks, a connection between two things that you'd never seen before, a sentence, a phrase, a vision that feels like it came from someone wiser than you. It didn't. It came from you, from the part of you that the noise had buried. And now that the weight has been lifted, it is rising. Let it. Write it down. Don't judge it. Don't evaluate it. Just capture it. Because this is what your mind was meant to produce when it isn't drowning in sludge. This is the signal that was always there beneath the static. And when the pen finally stops, when the page is full and your hand aches and there is nothing left inside you that hasn't been externalized, something happens in your body that you will feel as unmistakably as a change in temperature. Your shoulders drop. Your jaw unclenches. Your breath deepens, not because you're trying to breathe deeply, but because your autonomic nervous system, for the first time in hours or days, is releasing its grip. Cortisol levels decrease. Heart rate slows. The sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight machinery that has been running at a low hum since morning, begins to stand down. And in its place, the parasympathetic system rises. Rest, digest, repair, recover. You feel it as a wave of calm that seems almost inappropriate, almost too good to be real. 5 minutes ago you were drowning. Now you are still, not because the problems have been solved, not because the tasks have been completed, not because the emotions have been resolved, but because they have been externalized. They have been moved from the processor to the page, from volatile memory to stable storage, from the invisible interior of your mind to the visible, tangible, finite surface of a piece of paper. Your brain has been reformatted, not wiped clean, that would erase what matters. Reformatted, defragmented. The files are still there, but they are no longer clogging the processor. They are stored, organized, visible, and your mind, your actual, conscious, present mind, is free. This is what clarity feels like. Not the absence of problems, the absence of clutter. Not a life without challenges, a mind with the space to meet them. You had forgotten this feeling. You had been carrying the sludge for so long that you forgot there was a mind beneath it. There is. There always was. It just needed you to pick up a pen and give it permission to surface. Now that the vessel is empty, you can finally hear the voices you've been suppressing. But the loudest noise doesn't come from your thoughts. It comes from the people you can't say no to. In the next chapter, we are going to learn the deadly silence of no and how to build a wall around your newly cleaned mind. The war for your boundaries begins now. You felt it this morning. A buzz against your thigh. A tiny pulse, urgent, familiar, electric. You reached for your pocket. You pulled out the phone. Nothing. No notification. No message. No missed call. The screen was dark, but your body responded anyway. Your hand moved before your mind could intervene, because your nervous system has been trained, not taught, not persuaded, trained to respond to a stimulus that wasn't even there. This is called phantom vibration syndrome. Studies suggest that nearly 90% of smartphone users have experienced it. And if that number doesn't disturb you, let me reframe it. Your brain is hallucinating inputs from a device. Your neural circuitry has been so thoroughly colonized by a piece of glass and metal that it is now generating false sensory data to keep the loop alive. You are not using a tool. A tool is something you pick up when you need it and put down when you don't. You cannot put this down. Your brain won't let you, because this is not a tool anymore. It is a laboratory. And you are not the scientist. You are the subject. Let's talk about what's really happening when you open that screen. You unlock your phone and you begin to scroll down and down and down. There is no bottom. There is never a bottom. And that is not an accident. The infinite scroll was not designed for your convenience. It was engineered by some of the most brilliant behavioral psychologists and software engineers alive, specifically to exploit a vulnerability in your dopamine system. Your brain releases dopamine not when it receives a reward, but when it anticipates one. The anticipation is the drug, and the infinite scroll is a delivery mechanism built on the same principle as a slot machine: variable ratio reinforcement. You scroll past something boring, something irrelevant, something mildly interesting, something boring again, and then a hit, something funny, something outrageous, something that lights up your nucleus accumbens like a pinball machine. And now you can't stop. Not because the next piece of content will definitely be rewarding, but because it might be. And that uncertainty that maybe is the most addictive chemical cocktail your brain can produce. The casino doesn't need you to win every time. It needs you to almost win. It needs you to believe that the next pull, the next scroll, the next refresh might be the one. And so you keep pulling, keep scrolling, keep refreshing, not because you want to, because your dopamine system has been hijacked by an algorithm that knows your weaknesses better than you do, that learns from every swipe what captures you, what triggers you, what holds your attention for one more second, and then feeds you exactly that again and again and again in an endless, bottomless, perfectly optimized loop of algorithmic capture. The noise in your head is no longer just yours. It is being manufactured, pumped into your consciousness at industrial scale by systems designed to ensure you never, ever reach silence. Because silence is worthless to an attention economy. Silence doesn't generate clicks. Silence doesn't generate data. Silence doesn't generate ad revenue. Your stillness is their bankruptcy. And so they have built an architecture, global, pervasive, inescapable, whose sole function is to make sure you never sit still long enough to hear your own thoughts. And the weapon they use most effectively is fragmentation. Think about the last hour of your life. How many apps did you touch? How many times did you switch contexts? You were reading something, a notification pulled you to a message. You replied to the message, a headline caught your eye. You read the headline, a banner reminded you of an email. You opened the email, a link took you somewhere else entirely. Each switch took less than a second. Each one felt like nothing. But each one detonated a small charge inside your prefrontal cortex. Cognitive shrapnel. Every context switch forces your brain to dump one set of mental models and load another, to release one thread of thought and pick up a different one. And every time it does this, something is lost. A fragment of the idea you were building, a connection you were about to make, a depth you were about to reach. Gone, scattered, irretrievable. You are not thinking anymore. You are stuttering, starting a thought, abandoning it, starting another, abandoning that. Your mental mirror, the one that once reflected deep, sustained, coherent thought, has been shattered into 1,000 jagged fragments, and you are trying to see your reflection in all of them at once. This is what micro-switching does to a human mind. It doesn't make you faster. It doesn't make you more informed. It makes you shallow. It makes you scattered. It strips you of the one cognitive ability that separates deep insight from surface reaction, the ability to hold a single thought long enough to think it all the way through. And then there is the other noise, the one that doesn't come from notifications or algorithms, but from the curated, filtered, artificially perfected lives streaming through your screen every hour of every day. You see them, the vacations you can't afford, the bodies you don't have, the relationships that seem effortless, the careers that seem meteoric, the smiles that never falter. And you know intellectually, rationally, consciously that these are highlights, that they are edited, filtered, staged, selected from hundreds of attempts to project a single moment of manufactured perfection. You know this, and it doesn't matter, because the comparison doesn't happen in your rational brain. It happens deeper in the limbic system, in the ancient pre-verbal machinery that constantly scans the social environment and asks, where do I rank? Am I enough? Am I falling behind? This is social static. A constant, low-frequency broadcast of inadequacy that you absorb through your eyes and your thumbs 1,000 times a day. You are not just hearing your own mental noise anymore. You are hearing the noise of 500 other people's carefully constructed illusions, and your subconscious is comparing every one of them against the raw, unedited, unfiltered reality of your own life, and finding you lacking every single time. So what do? You know the standard advice. Put the phone down, set screen time limits, take a digital detox. And this advice is not wrong, but it is weak. It is a bandage on a hemorrhage. It asks you to exercise willpower against a system that was specifically designed to overwhelm your willpower. That is not a fair fight. That is not even a fight. That is a surrender disguised as resistance. If you are serious, truly serious about reclaiming your mind from algorithmic capture, you need to go further. You need to treat this like what it is, a war. And in war, you don't politely ask the enemy to be quieter. You cut supply lines. Start with grayscale. Take your phone and switch the display to black and white. This sounds absurd. It sounds trivial. It is neither. Color is one of the primary tools the dopamine loop uses to capture your attention. Those red notification badges are red for a reason. That vibrant, saturated feed is vibrant for a reason. Strip the color away and you strip away a layer of the drug. The phone becomes boring. Utilitarian. The slot machine loses its flashing lights. Then go deeper. Audit every application on your device with a single question. Does this serve me, or am I serving it? Be brutal. Be honest. If an app exists primarily to monetize your attention, if its business model depends on you scrolling longer, checking more often, engaging more compulsively. It is not a tool, it is a parasite. And parasites are not negotiated with. They are removed, deleted, not disable, not move to a folder, delete. Let the empty space on your home screen be a monument to what you've reclaimed. Then go nuclear. Designate hours, real hours, daily, non-negotiable, where the device does not exist, not in another room. Off, dark, dead, and sit in the discomfort that follows, because there will be discomfort. Your hand will reach for it. Your mind will invent reasons why you need it. You will feel a low, crawling anxiety, the same anxiety an addict feels when the substance is removed. And that anxiety is your proof. Proof that the connection was never casual. Proof that what you called a habit was a dependency. Proof that the thing you carry in your pocket every day has been carrying you. This is not self-denial. This is rebellion. This is the most radical act available to a modern human, the refusal to be captured, the decision to be bored, the decision to be unreachable, the decision to let the world spin without your witnessing it for 1 hour, 2 hours, an evening, a day. And in that space, in that terrifying, beautiful, empty space, something will begin to happen. The noise will thin, the static will fade, the 1,000 fragmented thoughts will begin to slow, to settle, to coalesce into something you haven't felt in years, a single, unbroken stream of your own consciousness, yours, not curated, not optimized, not fed to you by a machine, just yours. You've silenced the phone. You've silenced the world. But now, you are left with the most terrifying sound of all the silence itself. In the next chapter, we are going to face the void and find out why your brain would rather feel pain than be alone with its own stillness. The final confrontation with the self begins. In 2014, researchers at the University of Virginia placed subjects in a bare room. No phone, no book, no music, no window, just a chair and silence. They were asked to sit with their own thoughts for 15 minutes. Nothing else, just be. Before the experiment began, each subject was given a mild electric shock and asked whether they would pay money to avoid experiencing it again. Most said yes. The shock was genuinely unpleasant. Then they were placed in the room, alone, with nothing but the inside of their own minds. And they were told that if they wanted, they could press a button and shock themselves again. 67% of men and 25% of women chose the shock. They chose physical pain over the experience of sitting still. Not after hours, not after days. After just a few minutes of silence, the average person would rather hurt their own body than continue to be alone with their own thoughts. Let that land. Let it really land. You are so afraid of what lives inside your own stillness that you would rather bleed than listen to it. And this is not weakness. This is not a flaw in those particular subjects. This is you. This is me. This is nearly every human being alive. We have built entire civilizations, entertainment, industry, technology, addiction, on the desperate, unspoken, universal project of never, ever being left alone in a quiet room with ourselves. The noise you've been carrying through every chapter of this series, the loops, the fatigue, the digital invasion, the cognitive residue, all of it, every layer, has served one hidden function. It has been a shield, a wall between you and the void. And now that we have spent 6 chapters dismantling that wall, now that the noise is thinning, the apps are dark, the loops are closing, you are standing at the edge of something you have spent your entire life avoiding. The raw, unmediated experience of your own existence. And your first instinct right now, in this very moment, is to run. Why? What is so terrifying about the present moment that your entire nervous system treats it like a threat? The answer lies in a mechanism so constant, so automatic, so deeply woven into the fabric of your conscious experience that you have never once noticed it. Your mind time travels constantly, relentlessly, without permission and without pause. Close your eyes right now and try to stay here. Try to remain in this second, this breath, this heartbeat. You will fail. Within moments, sometimes within a single second, your mind will drift backward to a memory, forward to a plan, backward to a regret, forward to a fear. This is the past-future pendulum, and it swings every waking moment of your life. Studies in cognitive psychology suggest that the average human spends roughly half of their conscious hours not in the present moment. Half. 50% of your life is spent somewhere other than where you actually are. You are a time traveler, trapped in a machine that will not stop moving, dragging you backward through corridors of things that no longer exist, and forward into rooms that have not yet been built and may never be. And the noise, all of it, every thread, is the sound of that pendulum swinging. Your brain does not generate mental chatter for the fun of it. It generates chatter because chatter requires time. Every thought has a temporal orientation. It is either about something that happened or something that might happen. Regret lives in the past. Anxiety lives in the future. Guilt, nostalgia, shame the past, planning, worrying, fantasizing the future. Strip away the temporal dimension and thought itself begins to dissolve. Because the present moment, the actual, literal, immediate, now, has no narrative. It has no story. It has no arc, no conflict, no resolution. It simply is. And that is why your brain flees from it. Not because the present is painful, but because the present is empty of the one thing your default mode network feeds on: story. The now is a void, and your brain would rather inhabit a painful fiction than a featureless truth. But here is what your time-traveling mind does not want you to know. That void is not empty. It is the opposite of empty. The present moment contains more sensory data, more raw experiential richness, more actual reality than every memory and fantasy in your entire mental archive combined. Right now, in this second, your body is receiving millions of signals: the texture of the air on your skin, the weight of gravity pulling you into your seat, the rhythm of your heartbeat, the temperature of your hands, the subtle sounds at the edge of your hearing. This is not poetic exaggeration. This is neurological fact. Your sensory systems are processing an incomprehensible flood of information every millisecond, and your conscious mind is ignoring almost all of it because it is too busy replaying yesterday and rehearsing tomorrow. The present is not a void. It is a universe. You have simply been looking past it your entire life. This is what presence actually is. Not a spiritual concept, not a meditation buzzword, not something that requires a mountaintop or a monastery. Presence is a neurological state, a specific configuration of brain activity in which the default mode network quiets, the sensory processing regions amplify, and the gap between experience and awareness closes to zero. Zero latency. No lag between what is happening and your perception of it. No narrator inserting commentary between you and reality. No filter, no story. Just direct, unmediated contact with the raw texture of being alive. You have been in this state before. Athletes call it flow. That moment in competition when thought dissolves and the body moves with an intelligence that the conscious mind could never match. Artists know it, the hour that passes in what feels like a minute, when the hand moves and the work emerges and the internal critic falls silent because there is simply no room for it. Musicians know it. Surgeons know it. Rock climbers, chess players, writers in the deepest grip of a sentence, they all know this state. And every one of them will tell you the same thing. It is not effort. It is the absence of effort. It is what happens when the noise stops and the mind becomes a clear lens instead of a foggy window. Performance doesn't peak when you think harder. It peaks when you stop thinking entirely. The silent mind is not a passive mind. It is a mind operating at maximum capacity, with every resource allocated to the task at hand, instead of being siphoned off by the endless, useless, energy-draining monologue of the default mode network. So, how do you get there? Not in the heat of athletic competition, not in the middle of a creative project, but here, now, sitting in a chair, lying in bed, standing on a balcony with nothing to do and nowhere to be. How do you silence the narrator when there is no task to absorb you? You override the system, manually, deliberately. Not by fighting the thoughts. Fighting them feeds them, gives them weight, keeps them alive. You override by redirecting your brain's attention from the narrative channel to the sensory channel. These are two distinct neural networks. The narrative mode, your default mode network processes story, identity, time, self. The experiential mode, anchored in your insular and somatosensory cortex, processes raw, immediate physical sensation. They are like two radio stations, and your conscious attention is the dial. You cannot listen to both at full volume simultaneously. When one rises, the other falls, and you can turn the dial. Try this right now. 5 things you can see, not name see. Let your eyes rest on each one as if you have never encountered it before. The grain of a surface, the way light falls on a wall, the shadow under an object. 4 things you can physically feel: the pressure of your body against the chair, the temperature of the air entering your nostrils, the texture of fabric under your fingers, the weight of your own hands. 3 things you can hear, not identify here: the hum beneath the silence, the distance of a sound, the space between sounds. 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. This is not a relaxation exercise. This is a system override, a forced channel switch from narrative to experiential, from time travel to presence, from the story of your life to the raw, unfiltered fact of your life. And if you do it with genuine attention, if you truly look, truly feel, truly listen, you will notice something extraordinary. The narrator hesitates, the pendulum slows, the noise thins. Not because you silenced it, but because you stopped feeding it. You redirected the fuel, your attention, from the engine of thought to the engine of perception. And for a moment, maybe just a heartbeat, you are here, actually here, not remembering here, not planning here, here. And in that moment, you will notice something else, something that changes everything. You will notice that you are noticing. There is a part of you that is not the thought, not the emotion, not the sensation. There is a part of you that is watching all of it, the thoughts, the feelings, the sounds, the breath, the way a person watches clouds pass across a sky. The clouds move. The sky does not. The clouds change shape, gather, darken, dissolve. The sky remains. You have been identifying with the clouds your entire life. Every thought, every fear, every desire, every narrative you believed that was you. It was never you. You are the sky. The thoughts are weather, and weather passes. It always passes, if you let it. This is the observer, the watcher, the silent witness that has been present behind every experience you have ever had, every joy, every heartbreak, every moment of noise, and every flicker of silence. It does not think, it does not judge, it does not travel through time. It simply watches. And when you find it, when you shift your identity from the thoughts to the awareness of the thoughts, the noise doesn't stop because you fought it. It stops because you stopped being it. You stepped back. You disidentified. And from that vantage point, the vantage point of the sky, the noise is small, distant, almost amusing. A storm that cannot touch you because you finally understand that you are not inside the storm. The storm is inside you, and you are vast enough to hold it without being consumed. You have finally found the silence. But silence is not just an absence of noise. It is a foundation. Now that the ground is clear, what are you going to build on it? In our final chapter, we are going to learn how to turn this silence into a weapon of creation. It's time to build your eternal sanctuary. You have walked through fire to get here, through the static and the loops, through the predators hiding in your own neural architecture, through the weight of 1,000 unchosen choices and the relentless siege of a world designed to keep you distracted until you die. You have dismantled the machinery of noise piece by piece, the zygonic loops, the decision hemorrhage, the cognitive residue, the digital invasion, the terror of your own stillness. And now you stand in the clearing. The silence you once feared is no longer an enemy. It is a landscape. And for the first time, perhaps in your entire life, you can see it clearly. Vast, open, unbroken, not empty. Never empty, full of something you couldn't perceive before because the static was too loud. Potential, raw, limitless, aching potential. The silence of a mind at rest is not the silence of death. It is the silence of a canvas before the first stroke, the silence of a stage before the curtain rises, the silence of a lung at the top of a breath, holding everything, ready for anything. You have arrived at the beginning. Every act of profound creation in human history was born in this space. Not in noise, not in frenzy, not in the churning, anxious, overstimulated chaos that the modern world calls productivity. Every mathematical truth that bent the course of civilization emerged from a mind that had grown quiet enough to listen to the structure of reality itself. Every piece of music that has ever stopped a human heart mid-beat came from a silence so deep that something beyond the individual could speak through it. Every act of genuine courage, the kind that changes not just a life, but the trajectory of a species, was preceded by a moment of absolute stillness. A gap between thoughts where fear and doubt went silent, and something older, something truer, something that does not have a name, but that every human being recognizes when they feel it, rose to the surface and said, "Move." Now, this is the gap we spoke of chapters ago, the millisecond between two thoughts. You were afraid of it then. You are standing inside it now, and it is not small. It is infinite. It has always been infinite. You simply couldn't see it because you were moving too fast. Now let us build something here. Not a concept, not an affirmation, not a pretty idea that fades by morning. A structure, an internal architecture so real, so practiced, so deeply encoded in your neural pathways that it becomes as automatic and as permanent as the noise once was. Call it what you want: a sanctuary, a temple, a fortress. The name doesn't matter. What matters is this: it is yours. It exists inside you, and no external circumstance can touch it. Here is how it works. Through every chapter of this series, you have been collecting tools. The brain dump cleared the cognitive debris. The decision architecture protected your willpower. The Zeigarnik protocols closed the loops that were bleeding your energy in the dark. The digital exorcism reclaimed your attention from the algorithms. The sensory anchoring gave you a doorway back into the present moment. The observer, the watcher, the sky behind the clouds gave you a place to stand that is beyond the reach of thought itself. These are not separate techniques. They are stones, and tonight we lay them together. The brain dump is the foundation, the practice of regularly, ritually emptying the mind so that nothing accumulates, nothing festers, nothing builds into the kind of pressure that collapses your clarity. You do this not once, but daily. A few minutes, a blank page, everything out, every fragment, every worry, every half-formed idea, externalized, acknowledged, and released. This is how you keep the ground clear. This is how you ensure that the sanctuary is never buried under the rubble of your own unprocessed life. The decision architecture is the walls, the routines, the defaults, the pre-made choices that protect your cognitive reserves from the 1,000 trivial demands that would otherwise drain them before noon. You do not wake up and wonder what to do. You wake up, and the path is already laid. Not because you are rigid, because you are strategic, because you understand that every decision you automate is a brick in the wall that keeps the noise outside. The digital boundaries are the gate, and you are the gatekeeper. Not your phone, not an algorithm, not the red dot screaming for your attention. You decide what enters. You decide when. You decide how much. This is not deprivation. This is sovereignty, the most radical, countercultural act available to you in the 21st century. The decision to control what reaches your consciousness instead of allowing your consciousness to be controlled. And the observer, the silent watcher you discovered in the last chapter, is the keeper of the sanctuary, the one who sits at the center, unmoved, undisturbed, watching the weather of thought and feeling and sensation without being swept away by it. This is the part of you that does not need to be built. It was always there. It is there now, listening to these words, aware of itself, being aware. It is the part of you that has never been anxious, never been afraid, never been confused. Not because it is numb, but because it is the awareness in which anxiety, fear, and confusion arise and dissolve. It is the sky, and the sky has never once been damaged by a storm. Now here is what nobody tells you. The noise will come back. It will always come back. This is not a failure. This is not a sign that the work didn't hold. This is the nature of having a human brain in a human world. The loops will try to reopen. The decisions will pile up. The phone will buzz. The mind will wander into yesterday and tomorrow. The pendulum will swing. You cannot stop the wind from blowing. You were never meant to. What you can do, what you have now learned to do, is stop mistaking yourself for the wind. You are the mountain. You have always been the mountain, and the wind has been blowing across your face for your entire life, and you have been swaying with every gust, believing that the movement was you, that the turbulence was your identity, that the noise was your nature. It was never your nature. It was weather. And tonight, you are planting your feet in the bedrock of your own awareness and letting the wind howl. It will howl. Let it. It cannot move the mountain. It never could. This is what it means to protect your peace. And I want to address something here, because the world will tell you that this pursuit is selfish, that turning inward is turning away, that guarding your silence while the world burns is an act of indifference. The world is wrong. A mind at war with itself cannot bring peace to anything it touches. A mind drowning in its own noise cannot hear the suffering of another person clearly enough to help. Every relationship you have, every conversation, every act of kindness, every creative contribution, every moment of genuine love, all of it flows through the lens of your own internal state. If that lens is clouded, fractured, fogged with static, then everything you give the world passes through that distortion. But a mind at peace, a mind that has found its sanctuary, that has cleared the debris, that has claimed sovereignty over its own attention, that mind becomes a lens of extraordinary clarity. And through that clarity, compassion flows without obstruction. Creativity flows without resistance. Presence flows without the constant interruption of a self that is too noisy to get out of its own way. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is the most generous thing you will ever do, because a peaceful mind heals everyone it touches, not through effort, through resonance. And so we arrive at the final truth, the one that has been waiting beneath every chapter, every concept, every metaphor, every late-night revelation in this series. You, this thing that you call yourself, this awareness reading these words, this consciousness that has been struggling against its own noise for years. For decades, you are not separate from the silence you have been seeking. You are the silence. You are a piece of the universe that developed the capacity to be still, to listen, to observe itself with wonder. Every star, every galaxy, every atom in the observable cosmos is engaged in ceaseless motion, ceaseless reaction, ceaseless noise. But here, in this small, improbable, temporary arrangement of matter called a human being, the universe has done something extraordinary. It has created a pocket of awareness capable of stillness, capable of choosing not to react, capable of watching the noise without becoming it. You are not a victim of your thoughts. You are the space in which thoughts arise. You are not trapped in the noise. You are the silence that the noise temporarily obscures. And now you know how to find it. Not once, not as a peak experience that fades by morning, but as a practice, a discipline, a way of living that you carry with you into every subway car, every meeting, every argument, every sleepless night. The sanctuary is built, the gate is manned, the observer is awake. Do you remember where we began? I asked you a question. When was the last time you experienced true, absolute silence? Not the absence of sound, the absence of thought. You couldn't answer then. You can answer now. The answer is here. The answer is this moment. The answer was always waiting for you. Patient, vast, unbreakable in the space between your thoughts, in the stillness beneath the noise, in the silence that was never truly silent, but was always humming with the quiet, infinite music of your own existence. Close your eyes, listen, not to the world, to the silence beneath it. That is the sound of who you have always been, and it has been waiting for you to come home.